Legacy Weekend 2022. Maximize your purpose. We called all men for an empowering weekend. Create your legacy. Friday and Saturday. We came prepared to do the work in the areas of financial literacy, health and wellness, legacy building, fatherhood 101. Then, our Facebook Live panel discussion got to the core issues facing men. This was great empowerment, fellowship, giveaways, NFL players, food, and an exotic car show. This weekend pioneered what will be our annual Legacy Weekend for Men. Thank you for joining us. The HYP Group presents Maximize Your Purpose. We want to welcome you to the second annual Men's Empowerment Summit, winning in the game of life.
Good morning, everyone. Y'all could do better than that. It's a room full of men. Good morning, everyone. If we was in a stadium, we'd be screaming and waving our flags and everything. Good morning, everyone. I see we're in church. We're in the sanctuary anyway. I almost wanted to say this is the day that the Lord has made, and all God's men should rejoice and do what? And be glad in it. Thank you, somebody. Well, I'd like to welcome you all to the second annual Men's Empowerment Summit. My name is Gregory Wardlow, and on behalf of the HYP Group, we thank all of you for joining, those of you who are here in person and those of you that are watching online. We have a couple of rules for those of you who are watching online. We're just asking that you would share and tag this to all of your friends. Matter of fact, we'll just give you a couple of seconds right now. Just go ahead and tag all of your friends, share and tag. Tell them to come on and join so they can hang out with us here online. And there's still time. You can drive on down here and hang out with us as well. So we have a great program scheduled for you all today, and we hope that you all will be able to participate and engage by way of conversation. And we're also hoping that when we leave here today, that we will be a little bit more empowered to maximize our purpose. Before we get started, also, we have a few thank yous that we like to shout out. We like to thank Dream Sports, Hayden Sports, Customs by Louie, Loving Kindness Ministry, CDC, the Master's Child Church, and all of the volunteers, Eddie Cherry, Lauren Hillian, Darren Pinkley, and all the parking lot security, those brothers just outside. So we want you to engage with us and ask as many questions as possible. We have various speakers scheduled today. Everyone is here to help each other. So the question that you have, don't think that it's not a relevant question, because the question that you have may be a question that someone else is thinking and don't necessarily feel comfortable with asking. So we're here to help one another. So by all means, again, we have various speakers coming up this morning speaking on different topics. So by all means, all questions are welcome. So feel free to speak up with your experiences, your recommendations, encouragements, and your insights. And then also for our online viewers, we have not forgotten about you. You can type your questions in the live chat, and we will do our best to get to your questions. Can't make any promises that we'll get to all of them, but we encourage all questions because we do have somewhat of a time schedule here. So we may not be able to get to all questions, but we do encourage all questions here live in person, and for those of you, again, that are watching online. So without further delay, our first guest speaker today is State Delegate C.T. Wilson. And at just a moment, I believe that a video introduction is getting ready to come up, and then the next voice you will hear is our State Delegate C.T. Wilson. Let's put our hands together for our State Delegate C.T. Wilson. Thank you.
C.T. Wilson, our Maryland State Delegate, District 28, Charles County, and attorney. C.T. Wilson was born and raised in the Midwest. Throughout his early childhood, he was moved in and out of foster homes and orphanages. In his early adolescence, he was placed in a permanent home. Despite a difficult childhood, he learned that obstacles meant to limit him could be turned into opportunities. Outside of the office, he describes the best part of his life as his family and his 3 daughters. At the age of 18, to escape poverty, he joined the United States military as an enlisted combat soldier. It was the military that taught him the true value of justice, discipline, and hard work. He served in the Persian Gulf and Bosnia-Herzegovina in both the combat and medical units. After 7 years, he was honorably discharged. Wilson was accepted into Upper Iowa University, where he graduated with a 4-point grade point average and with cum laude distinction, obtaining his bachelor's degree in psychology. Subsequently, he went on to continue his education at Howard University School of Law, where he earned his Juris Doctor and was admitted to the Maryland Bar in 2003. Soon after obtaining his admittance to the Maryland Bar, Wilson began working as an assistant state's attorney for Prince George's County. Shortly thereafter, he became the chief prosecutor in this district. He worked as a prosecutor for Prince George's County for approximately 7 years. After Wilson left the state attorney's office, he began work as a solo practitioner with a focus in criminal defense. He opened his law firm, the law offices of C.T. Wilson, LLC, in April 2012. In 2010, Wilson was elected to represent the 28th District in the House of Delegates at the Maryland General Assembly. During his first term, which officially began in 2011, he served on the Environmental Matters Committee and as a member of the Black Democratic and Veterans Caucuses. Delegate Wilson has brought forth and supported numerous pieces of legislation that have now become Maryland law. At present, he is serving his 3rd term as state delegate and continues to advocate for issues that he is passionate about, including child sexual abuse, foster youth, and veterans. During the 2015 legislative session, his bill to make March 30th Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day a holiday was the first piece of legislation signed into law by Governor Hogan. In addition, during this session, he was assigned to the Economic Matters Committee and went on to become the House Chair of the Veterans Caucus. In the session that followed, Wilson held the first annual Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day reception in the House Office Building, which hosted Vietnam veterans and the Maryland Secretary for Veterans Affairs. In the 2017 legislative session, Wilson was appointed as the chair of the Business Regulations Subcommittee and also sponsored 2 new events. The first event is the first annual Veterans Legislative Day in Annapolis, which allowed Maryland veterans to come down to the Maryland General Assembly where they could learn about legislation brought forth concerning veterans and to meet legislators to discuss their concerns. The second event is Foster Youth Day in Annapolis. And this event gives foster youth from all over Maryland a chance to meet with their representatives and shadow them for a period of time throughout a regular legislative day. During the 2022 Maryland legislative session, Delegate Wilson was named Chair of the Economic Matters Committee. With this role comes many challenges, but as always, he is forever committed in supporting the citizens of Charles County, Maryland, and being that voice for so many others in this great state of Maryland. Will you please stand and welcome our guest speaker, Maryland State Delegate, District 28 of Charles County, C.T. Wilson.
Just want to say thank you guys. I don't know who put that together, but I need to pay them. I definitely want to have them. That was amazing. And I mean, I usually tell people, please don't introduce me, because number one, I'm not the world's greatest public speaker. I see these brothers up here. I saw them on the screen. You know, they were sweating, passionate, neck veins bulging out. I'm like, well, that's not me. So I say, don't say much. Don't take my steam away. But that was amazing. So I'm serious about whoever did that. I just need to add a few more things in there, and we're gonna take care of them. So thank you guys for having me here today. Like I said, it's trying to figure out how to communicate a message. I talk to the young attorneys that I train as well as the young politicians and elected officials, And I tell them one of the most difficult things about our job for me is missing an opportunity to inspire. I mean that. So every time I'm asked to speak, I don't take every speaking engagement because sometimes I just don't have the time. But it's always a huge challenge for me because you never know who's on their last leg or who's on their first step. But if you don't say anything, you're going to miss that. And I tell my daughters, when I die on my gravestone, I want to put basically, sometimes you don't get to be the next MLK or John F. Kennedy, but you do get to inspire them. And that's what we should all be striving to do. And that's what I'm here to talk about today, guys. And I'm glad I talked to these gentlemen briefly because I had to really change everything up. I thought I was going to be talking to you guys use the word young men, and you all being called young men, but I hear young men, I think people 16 and 17. I see a lot of gray hair out there, and that creates, and no hair, a lot of you no hair, and that creates a big challenge because what do you tell brothers that have been through some stuff, And, but let's see what I can do. My goal is just to kind of talk about a few things, the benefit of helping and striving in dealing with impossible odds. So basically a little bit of background. I'm the oldest of 17 children. And as you heard a little bit, I came through foster care. By the time I was 4 years old, I had 3 sisters, Heather, Holly, and Candy Lynn. My mom was addicted to drugs, so I was literally watching my sisters. Weirdly enough, my mom is white. My whole family's white. And my father was obviously black. I never knew him. And I'll tell you, there's nothing more disappointing sometimes when you dig into your history, brother, because, man, it's rough. I'll tell you, I went back years later to find my mother's family, and she had 14 brothers and sisters. She had mental illness as well, and they all lived on the same dirt road in the Ozarks. The whole family. My rich Uncle Tommy lived closest to the end, and he had a double wide. That's why they called my rich Uncle Tommy. There was only one uncle that wasn't there, and everybody else, they were just dirt poor white people. And then the one uncle that wasn't there, I met years later. My wife calls me, I'm in Annapolis. She's like, hey, there's some dude, some white guy pulled up, and he got Missouri tags. He and his wife, they want to meet you. I was like, well, send him away. I'm not that friendly. Then they're like, well, they say they're your relative. I'm like, all right, well, give them $200 and send them away. And then she says, and they're deaf. I was like, because half my family was deaf. That means they were legitimately relatives. So I remember going back, and I drove back from Annapolis to meet with them, and boy, he got around to the question I should have never asked. And I was like, before my grandmother died, she said that my mom loved coloreds and cops. So I figured my dad was a black cop. So I asked this guy, I said, hey, do you remember my dad? And he has pictures of me when I was a little boy, all things I've never seen pictures of me. I only have like 3. And he's like, oh, yeah, they're typing it, because remember, he's deaf. He's like, yeah, he was about a 65-year-old homeless drifter that used to come through every summer, and he got my mom pregnant. I was like, yeah, he got there's no good seed here, brother. So, but my mother, she would kind of leave us a lot, and I'd feed my sisters. And I still remember the last night when we got together, and it was just me and her, which was weird. We watched TV and we ate Pringles, and it was really uncommon for us to have time alone because, and she was not a good mama. Well, it got dark, and when my mom walks me outside, and my name is not CT. I got to pick my name when I was adopted. So my name that I remember was Buddy. And she's like, hey, Buddy. And she pulls me to the door. She's like, today is the first day that you get to be a man. And then she walks outside, and we're standing on the porch, and I feel her hand let go. And she locks the door and keeps me outside. What I didn't know was that's the last day I would ever see my family. And she'd give me up for adoption. Now, she had 17 kids. Every one of them kids was put up for adoption. And, foster care can be very rough. And when I was growing up in the 70s, it was, sometimes you'd be in a home, sometimes you'd be in a boys' home with criminals, 17, 8-year-old criminals, and you're, 5 years old. And bad things happen. And then I would try, because I was in the Ozarks, I figured every time that I was always the last boy picked because I was the only black kid. And so I tried to learn how to speak very well. I combed my hair straight, and nothing seemed to work. But finally, it did. I got adopted. And I met, the couple. The guy was very interested, so they adopted me. And he was, he was a kindergarten teacher. He was a scout leader. He was a church leader. He was a Sunday school minister. And he was a pedophile. So my life went from being tough to downright hell. So from the ages of, and I remember by the time I got to that home, I could barely read. I was 9 years old. From like the ages of 9 to 16, it went really, really bad. And it stayed that way. In addition, I was the only black kid in my town. They moved to this town called Freeburg, Illinois, population 2,500, and I was the only black kid. So I was constantly fighting, and I wasn't a big dude. I graduated high school, joined the Army at 135. That lets you know how little I was. I was a very thin because I was constantly underfed as a child, and then adopted by white folks that lived in a trailer. So it's not like we were eating well then. And so it was a very, very difficult life. Getting in fights, and of course I was the one who would get suspended. I'm riding my bike home and the cops are following me. One of my friends called me the other day and he was arguing, he's a white boy, he was arguing with his dad about, how white folks, his dad is a Republican about, and there's no benefit from being white. And Bill was reminding me that every time he would come pick me up from the trailer park, he could drive all around Freeburg. But once I got in the car, a cop would be following us everywhere. And so my life was pretty much a living hell. And I say that because sometimes you have to remember when we're dealing with some children that just saying present is an accomplishment. Just being there in school, because I had horrible grades, man. I barely graduated. They passed me pretty much because they had to. I had a low D average. I just thought I was stupid. And so at the end of the day, I just ended up angry and alone. So for me, military was the only means of escape. I'll tell everybody I never joined the military as a patriot, but I sure as hell left as one. If you've served, you'll understand. Now, mind you, it's not all, roses in the military. I was in the United States Army. And racism is alive and well. Okay? Very prevalent. And in the 90s, very prevalent. If anybody went to the Persian Gulf, just remember looking to your left and to your right on them front lines, there was nothing but brown faces. Getting to kill a bunch of brown faces. It was ironic that even though I took that test, I only qualified to be a cook or a combat soldier. I had pretty high scores. But they funneled us all into the front of the front lines. I served in the Middle East, Germany, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Served in the Middle East conflict as well as the Bosnia conflict. And I tell you, over there, it was an epiphany. And a very shocking revelation, because I saw some of the greatest suffering and some of the greatest acts of humanity and love that I would ever see in combat. They gave me a real loving for my country. And I don't care what you're going to say about this country, I will disagree. This is an amazing place. And I tell my daughters, today is the best day to be black in the history of this country. Because every day we get a little better. And if you need a reminder, poke your head out. Look at all them cars in the parking lot. Look at them nice cars in the parking lot. Go home, and before you drive up, stop. Look at your home. And imagine what the brothers in the 50 would have done to get what you have now. And I know as African Americans, it is a heavy burden. I will never say things are all good, but they're not all bad. And when you go overseas, you really do get a taste of that. You get a taste, and it was amazing going over there and watching. We're in Bosnia, we were doing these sniper engagements. So when we weren't doing that, we were just walking the streets, and you're patrolling with kids. Basically, we time it to when we were walking the kids back and forth from school. And every now and then they would start shelling us. And we'd grab the kids, throw them into the ditches that we dug, and we'd duck down. When it would stop, get the all clear sound, get everybody up. And watch these little kids pick up their bags, pick up their books, and keep walking to school. Yeah, you see some amazing resilience when you go out of this country. If you're African American and you hate this country, travel. Go somewhere else. Man, go to Mississippi. There are places in this country where you don't know how bad you got it till you've been there. Okay? And I say this, and you're gonna hear this is, and again, I'm not an off the cuff dude, guys. Y'all don't. I mean, I usually have a program that I go by because I have ADD, and I'll talk about a squirrel or something. But these brothers here told me what this was about, so I'm a little bit off the cuff. But one of the things you're going to constantly hear is about that perspective. See, going overseas gave me a different perspective. As much as I was a woe is me, because I had a horrible life. You know, for the most part, I was an orphan. I remember, I went to visit an orphanage in Zagreb, and I was talking to these young ladies. They're 14 and 16, and just their experiences. You know, one little girl's like, she saw her mom and dad both killed in front of her, which is horrible. The other little girl, her mom was Serbian and her dad was Croat. So they made her pick which one they were going to kill. And she had to watch her mom get murdered because of her choice. That's perspective. And I don't know what that young lady's doing today, but it was amazing when I talked to her. She wanted to be a nurse. She still had goals and she still had aspirations. She didn't look around to see what the world wasn't giving her, but she decided to see what she was going to try and take from the world. And to me, that's what I got from the military. Plus, if anybody's joined, after you join the military, you realize, you can do anything. I'm not a fan of sending kids to the military, but I'm also a fan of sending kids to the military. Because, man, you learn how to jump out of a helicopter in 13 days. You're doing airborne in what, 8? It was 7. Well, in the fold the gap, it was 7. Or no, 10. I mean, you're doing incredible things in a very short amount. You push your body and your mind to limits. So when I got out of the military, you couldn't tell me nothing. As I said, I was never going to be poor again. So for me, education is the way. Now, I'm sure there's some entrepreneurs in this room. I wish I was one. I do not have a creative mind because that's what it takes to be an entrepreneur. But I'm not a dummy. So I went to undergrad, like you said, 4.0, Howard Law School, top 15% of my class. And that's while being a bouncer and a single parent. Because my oldest daughter's mother gave me my daughter my second semester of law school. And I had to basically have everybody's help. And as much as I bag on Howard, because, boy, if you've been to HBCU, there's some good about it, but, man, you just don't get nothing on time. There's a lot of things, but you know what you get is that sense of community. And although I would complain, I'm right where I need to be. God got me there, and he got me there through Howard. And I was a bouncer at Dream and Republic Garden. I don't know if y'all remember these back in the day. Yeah, I know, compared to these dudes, I don't look big. Remember this, these guys can't get through a crowd like I can. I got a narrow frame. I was always the first one to the fight. Mo and Kurt and all them big dudes, they get there eventually, but I was already in it. So that's how I helped pay my law school tuition. And then after that, I became a prosecuting attorney. And a lot of people raise their eyes at that, right? Especially black folks. If you've lived anywhere else in this nation, you have to realize what we have here. I was astounded at the money and the crime rate in Prince George's County. Because those two made no sense to me. You have this place called Woodmore. When I was a prosecutor, there were the two gangs in Woodmore. The one in the $500,000 townhouses or the $800,000 single homes. Brothers selling drugs on the golf course. These things shouldn't even be. Because I said, I was a homicide prosecutor. I never, ever had a white victim. And I never had a white defendant. It was always my people killing my people. So I tell people, even we deserve justice. So if you go and look at my record in Annapolis, I'm a conservative Democrat. I don't believe that we need to keep getting sold these wolf tickets of woe is us. Allowing white people to tell us it's not our fault. Because notice, whenever you tell a young man it's not his fault, you're also telling me he has no solution. That's all you do. You justify his behavior. You let him know it's okay. And look around you. That has not been working. And I'm not saying people don't come from horrible circumstances. I came from horrible circumstances. There's no reason, and I mean this, there's no reason I shouldn't be out there murdering people. I am built to be a killer. And that's why I succeeded in the military. But I don't do that in public. And I don't victimize my people. And we have to stop lowering our standards. Everybody wants to tell us, black folks, What do we need, affordable housing? No, we need ownership. They keep talking about the unemployment rate. No, I want to own my business. How are you going to, we have allowed white folks, and I'm not being racist, but I am being honest, liberal white folks to define our narrative. But my question is, how are you going to save me if I'm better than you? I've been through so much to get where I'm at now. How are we letting anybody else define what it is we do? Why is there never a conversation about the black middle class or the very small black wealth? There's not. I've been up there 13 years listening to every year talk about the black experience, and it's never success. It's a handout. It's a government. Like I said, I'm going off the rails here. I had a whole different story, but I'm seeing these brothers here, and it's inspiring me because I get frustrated when I'm up there and I am a villain in Annapolis because I speak my mind. I might not be like these monsters here, but I'm a good-sized boy. And they don't want to hear me lean up into them and say, "What'd you just say?" Watch who you're talking to. They want you to pat them on the back and tell them, no, you're right too. You're not right. Not everything we say is right. And we're not going to call it the black and brown experience because those are two different experiences. They always conflate black people with any other cause when they want to make themselves something. And then the moment they get what they want, we're not black, they'll vote for Trump. But somehow it's the black and brown experience. We should understand every struggle, we get nothing out of it. But no, don't worry, next time's gonna be your time. And if it's one thing I've learned, and this, I have 3 daughters. I'm very proud of my little girls, and I don't raise them to marry doctors, I raise them to be doctors. But I'll tell you this, black men, it will never be black man's time. You've heard, oh, it's woman's time. Oh, but it will never be a black man's time. That will never be given to us. We will have to earn it. There's nothing more heart-wrenching, and I have discussions with my daughters on a regular basis. Black men ain't S. That's become the comedic narrative at this point, right? And we have these discussions. Well, what is a man? I don't need no man. Well, then why are we having this conversation? How do you want to have a family? How do you want to be a boss woman and to say, you know what, I'm done. I'm done. No, I don't want to work at all. Well, no, pick your poison, boss. We can lead together, but we can't both lead. And if you're a Christian woman, you have to swallow that pill. And again, remember, I got daughters, so it's not like I'm saying you need to run out there and be dependent upon a man. I'm saying you need to allow a man to be a man. Stop villainizing me because I speak with a deep voice, but you want that pickle jar open. Who do you want when you hear some at night to jump out of bed? Okay then. Because we have men, as black men, and I argue with my daughters because they talk about the difficulties of being a black woman. And I'm not going to disparage or dismiss being a black woman. I've never been one, and I'll never be one. That's not how God created me. But I'll say this, we will always be the target. We will never be socially accepted. If you look at our young black male youth, a lot of things they do, it's almost out of giving up. Well, if I'm never going to be accepted like this, I might as well be this. That's a very weak way of approaching life, by the way. Okay, I'm not excusing that at all. Don't, just because life is tough, you don't give up. But I get it. So I'm talking to you, like finding a way, number one, and I'm going to say this, before we get to inspiring the next generation, we have to inspire each other. Brother, we have to remind each other. I'm going through my 3rd divorce. It's not, the first two in the military, so hey, look, they don't count. But this last one, this counts. We struggle alone. We never support each other. And we get constantly told we're nothing. We get constantly told we're less than, but keep carrying that weight. Keep carrying that load. How dare you struggle? How dare you cry? We have men telling us we're weak, and we have women telling us we're weak. If we cry in church, we must be soft. Maybe we just heard something that touched our heart. There is nothing wrong with squaring your shoulders and leaning into the fight. And there's nothing wrong with telling people how hard that fight is. I say this because trauma is real. It's not about the struggle is real, but that trauma that we deal with, that we hide, it breaks us. And it has a physical ramification. Our bodies don't live long. Take stock, gentlemen. I'm not joking. If you're here and you're close to 70, God bless you, because you are the exception and not the rule as a black man. I don't care how in shape we are. I don't care how much we work out. We die because we put ourselves through hell from the day we are born. You know that feeling every time a cop pulls up beside you? How much money do I need to make before I'm not nervous? Huh? I've got delegate tags on my car, but Charles County cops pulled me over for 45 minutes because my tags weren't right. How can they be wrong? I got a gun license. They want to look for my gun. They want me to show them you know why? We don't know if the gun's stolen. I'm a delegate. Why am I nervous? We live this every day and we don't take care of it. It's important. And this is not a woe is me, brother, because you know what? Ain't nobody going to feel sorry for none of y'all. We're not going to feel sorry for each other, but you can acknowledge what that black man's struggle is. And it is a silent struggle. The only time you ever talk about black men is in the history books once they're dead. We need to change that narrative. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to break. And it's okay to fall. And we have to stop being in relationships. We have to constantly explain why we're the man. You might not be able to lead the woman, but you can lead your children. It's important that we take a better approach to what we're doing, because it's silent and it kills us. And it kills us early. And we talk about a legacy. How are you going to achieve your full potential if you're dead? You know, I learned that being alone isn't always the worst thing you can be. Family's important. But you got to realize that people will let you down. That doesn't mean you deserve to fail. It doesn't mean you don't make it on your own. I mean, politicians, man, I know this is crazy. I hate politicians. I do. I don't do well up there. I'm not well liked, because I always tell people, if you're going to be in a tank full of sharks, I'm going to be the biggest shark. Nobody's biting my butt. So they think I'm mean. They think I'm evil. That's fine. But those same politicians are going to tell you how good you got it. But look around. And if you agree, then keep moving. We don't need to talk. But I know a lot of us are just asking for something that will never come. Sometimes you cannot put your hand out. You have to put it down and put it to work. I talk to veterans all the time, and I'm constantly shocked that they keep asking for more. Not because they don't deserve it, but probably not going to get it. In the meantime, you got to go out there and get something, because it is not going to be given. When I talk to black men and black women who want to talk about what they are not getting and how unfair things are in Baltimore, I go, and now what? Because it doesn't matter if it's white people that run our county or black people, does it? If you live in Charles County, have things gotten better now that we're all black? Have things gotten better in Prince George that we're all black? So you can't now call it racism. Not now. Now what is it? Oh, no, it's a hidden racism. See, we keep looking for excuses. I need a problem and move forward. What are you going to do about it? That's the only reason I ran for office, because I wasn't going to rely on somebody else to do right by me. Oh, yeah. And we can have a whole conversation about mental illness. And believe me, that is real. But, like I said, we have a whole nother conversation. Because, but what I want us to realize, as black men, the gifts that we have. I want us to realize the struggles, because it's not about woe is me. It's about just acknowledging what I learned as a little boy. And the thing that's made me who I am, like when I talked about being okay being alone. As long as I know that I'm the only person in my foxhole, I'm not going to get overrun. It's when you think somebody's got your back. That's devastating. I can deal with failure. I've been fired from way more jobs than I've ever had. Cap, I can deal with failure. I can't deal with disappointment. Disappointment is what wears you down. Being resilient is about understanding that these folks around you are going to let you down. That has nothing to do with your destiny. Your destiny is in your hands. It's an individual. And I like to say, as a black collaborative group of men, we could come together. Not. I'd like to see us work for a common good and square our shoulders and step out in this community and say, this is who we are as a black people. But right now, that's what women are doing for us. Our black women are telling everyone, including us, what we are as African Americans. And again, I have 3 daughters, but I know who the man in my house is. I believe that we really need to focus on how to keep fighting and not give up. And when it comes to the mental health issue, one of the things I'll say is my childhood was very, very rough. And one of the things I was able to do, I think when I look back, people always ask, well, what made a difference? Who came into your life? Nobody. Who was the motivator? Nobody. The motivator was this: perspective. Even when I was a little boy going through my worst, I had volunteered for the Missouri School for the Blind. So no matter how bad my day was, I wasn't stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. And I could see kids my own age, that literally were going to summer camp. They just want to be taken out of the tent and pointed in the direction of the sun that they will never see. And they smile. So when you have individuals that are struggling, when you yourself are struggling, go volunteer somewhere. Get some perspective. Find out just what you have versus focusing on what you do not have. That's made all the difference in my life. And every now and then I'll have a pity party, and then God will throw somebody my way. Some dude at church. I seen this little white kid, man, he's about this tall. He was palsy. This brother walked out, popped his shades on, bow, kept walking. Because it was a beautiful sunny day. And I'm whining because I got to figure out, I got another car I got to buy here real soon for my child. Oh, no, not about the money, about the insurance and which, really? I'm so caught up in myself that I can't see where the real fight is. It's in here. I'm not going to say we're going to fight as a collaborative, gentlemen. We are going to fight as a group of individuals, because the male lion always does that. All right? We are not wolves. We're lions. But male lions also acknowledge each other's strengths and keep it moving. They don't take from each other. And we can do that. We can talk. We don't need to commiserate. We can acknowledge it's okay to struggle. When you see a brother with his head down, be like, brother, it'll be okay. He's not going to want to tell you what happened, and you ain't got to tell him. But we can support each other. I have 3 beautiful daughters. One at Hopkins, one get ready to go to Harvard. My oldest is just trying to drain my bank account by any way necessary, but she's going to be a nurse, and she's doing her part too. I'm an attorney. I'm a former homicide prosecutor. I own my own law firm. I'm an author. I'm the first African-American in the history of Southern Maryland to ever be elected to state office. I'm the chair of the House Economic Matters Committee. I'm the first. There's only 6 chairs. Okay, there's 141 delegates. There are only 6 chairmen. I control the most powerful committee in the state. All the banking, all the finance, all the labor, all the employment, all the unemployment, all the workers' comp, all the insurance, all the alcohol, all the utilities, all the power. And I, by myself, just drafted a cannabis bill to make sure, because God knows I didn't vote to make weed legal, but if it's going to be legal, then my people aren't just going to smoke it. That all the licenses that are coming are going to be called equitable licenses. Now, we couldn't use the word race, but see, I'm a lawyer, I'm a problem solver. I'm like, not a problem. But you had to have lived in a community that has at least 150% of the state average for cannabis arrests. Or have gone to a school that has 40% Pell Grants. So I don't have to say the word black for y'all to hear the word black, do I? But that's the only people that are going to get these licenses. Because I was the chairman and decided we are not going to be fed upon. I made sure, and I had to talk to Martin Luther King III. He came up and sat down with me and to talk about unionizing the cannabis industry. Black people need jobs. I said, you know what? It is not my job to create black jobs. It's my job to create black millionaires. I will let them create black jobs because we are 40% more likely to hire ex-offenders and African Americans than anybody else. And so before we saddle with union demands, why don't we let these businesses get off the road, off the ground first? Come back in 3 years. This is not what I say, this is what I do. And I'm hated for it. People will be glad when I leave the State House because they ain't gonna tell me what to do, and I ain't no dummy. And I'm not afraid to tell you, hey, that's stupid, go fix it. Because I don't have the time. Because I am a black man. And I'm resilient, I'm fierce, I take care of myself, I take care of my family, and I don't wait for anybody to say thank you, because they won't. This year, I spent 10 years fighting the Catholic Church. This year I won. I started out with just me, now the whole State House, and the governor signed the bill. Kamala Harris is giving me an award at the end of the month at the Gaylord for the Beau Biden Foundation for my work for fighting for children. And again, this isn't so you know how great I am. That's resilience. That's when nobody cares about victims of child sex abuse, but I do. And even though nobody cares, that doesn't mean I'm going to shut up. Again, it's not about thank you. It's about that accomplishment. Because at the end of the day, guys, when I was at Howard University, and I remember walking to get my diploma, you know, Howard, families are loud, black folks, Lincoln Theater. But one of the things is, it's always the family that cheers first. It's like 13 steps, do, after they called my name, with nobody cheering. Because I didn't have a family. Now, eventually, people caught on. And afterwards, they asked me, are you all right? How do you feel? I said, I got it by myself. I feel great. I didn't have anybody, and I didn't need anybody. I feel great, because you can't take my accomplishment. My lack of family doesn't do that. If I don't get elected next time, you can't stop. I was still the first black African-American elected down here. You can't take away my accomplishment. So all I ask for all of you is to look into yourself. Square your shoulders. Be the men you're supposed to be and accomplish, because nobody can ever take that away. Thank you.
Come on, let's give another round of applause to Delegate Wilson. Thank God for you, brother. Thank you for your story on this morning. Prayerfully we get a chance to hear from you again. At this time, we're going to open up the floor for questions for Delegate Wilson.
I like when I cover everything. No question. Jason.
And you can come to, there's mics in the middle of the aisle you can come to with your questions.
Can you hear me? Okay. My question is it possible, what is your thoughts on revising the WCD so it does not affect individual property owners? Right now, it's
Okay, well, to answer, two parts of that answer. I'll give the political answer. I'm a state official. I don't get involved. I don't tell people in the county what to do. I'll give you my non-political answer. I personally will be happy if they didn't build a single house in this county for the next 10 years. I would be happy if they built roads and schools and stopped building houses. So I have no problem. And I know it's a personal thing for you. But personally, I'm tired of seeing developers. It'd be different if they had a 2-acre, 5,000 square foot house. No. They have 30 houses on that 1 acre. And that's for us. It wasn't like this before, but now that black folks have moved down here, they're packing us in like animals. But remember, we've only got a limited amount of water because we don't get water from the ocean. We get water from underground. So we got a limited amount of water. We have a limited amount of roads. I don't know how many of y'all work out of the county, but those roads are not going to get any emptier. So personally, when it comes to WCD, I don't want developers building nothing else. I would be glad, and I don't want to see another Aldi's or Lidl or some low-class shopping place or low-class food. We deserve something better. So personally, I'm fine with no more houses. I'm fine with especially no more townhouses or apartments until we are allowed to get a handle on the growth of this county, until we can drive through Waldorf, because there's nothing worse than coming home from D.C. hungry. I'll make it all the way home before I thought of a single good place to eat in this dang county. Because we keep worrying about what the developers want. You know what they tell us? We build more houses, we'll get the amenities we want. Absolutely not. That building income stuff is only in the movies. Stop building these houses. Give me a minute. Give me a way to get my kids to school and some roads that are at least open. And please, let's not talk about the light rail. Nobody here will be alive when that light rail comes, if that light rail comes. Because as soon as there's money available for light rail in Waldorf, Baltimore will go, wait a minute, what about me? Moco was like, well, me too. Heck, Howard County's got 3 times as many people as we do. How we think we're going to get that first? But we're being sold that because developers know this. In order for us to get a light rail, we need 350,000 people in a concentrated area. We only have 168 in this entire county. So they're going to keep telling y'all that wolf tickets. Ooh, the light rail's coming. No, it's not. And what would we do with it if we did? So personally, no more houses. Let's try and get improve some highway funds to widen, improve our highways, maybe a rapid bus lane, something that I will see at least in my children's lifetime. So y'all can get political. I like that too. I think
There's mics in the aisle, so you can step. If you have questions, just step out in the aisle and step up to the microphone. You're good, sir.
Yes, sir.
On that side.
Transportation from Waldorf, well, actually this way, Indian Head to DC. At one time we had the Metro, I guess it was subsidized. The W19 was like a straight shot to Southern Avenue. That was cut off prior to COVID, for like 3
you want a bus line?
Yes.
Okay.
How about, what do we have to do?
Well, to me, one of my goals before I leave is obviously growing Indian Head. I believe we're focusing on Waldorf. We should be focusing on our economic engine, which is Indian Head. So what I'm trying to do 2 ways is there are 2 overpasses, right? I fought hard to get those overpasses. There's one coming. Kirby Road and what's the one? We're working our way back. Is create five underpasses, so it's a direct shot with no lights. 1, 2. Do the rapid bus transit, get that back here. So yes, we are working on doing that right now. The good thing is being a chairman, I have a great deal of effect on, even if it's not my committee, on demanding more. So we are working on that. But to me, this is our great economic engine here. And they can't get rid of Indian Head, so we really do need to build it up. But one of the ways we have to build it up is make it more of a straight shot. Because, hey, at nighttime, if it's like midnight, you can get to DC, 15 minutes, right? You know how great that would be if we could, if this was a straight shot? You know how many people would stop building businesses in Herndon and start building them down here? How many DOD businesses would say, you know what, well, there's no more room there. And everybody who lives in Charles County knows one thing. You get way more house and way more housing for a lot less money than you'd ever get anywhere else in this region. So we have the ability, we just need to stop being sold these wolf tickets about something going up to 301 and that's not gonna happen. So I'm working on that, sir. You have to push the thing
Does Charles County, I'm not from here, but what I notice about PG County is that they don't have many programs for returning citizens. I wanted to know, what is your take on that, and are you doing anything to help?
We have even less than Prince George County, but Prince George County does have some. In fact, I know that I do a lot because I, basically legislate the unions, and I'm a defense attorney. I got one of my boys now. He owns 3 trucks in HVAC. Like 7 years ago, he got out on his drug crime, and he went to work for Michaels and Sons after he got his HVAC training. That there are many unions, especially in Prince George's County, are hiring return offenders. Now, I'll say this: if you're a return offender, there are some jobs you're not going to get. You are not going to pass a security clearance. But if you're ready to work with their hands, I know they have a multitude of programs to work to assist return citizens from, in getting back into the community, because I've used them. I got a little brother right now. I'm actually getting ready to put him as a just participant in a carjacking, we'll say. And but he's a juvenile. But when he turns 18, we're going to get him into the steam fitters union.
Right. I agree. I'm from Prince George County. But what I notice is I live in the district now. And the reason why I live in the district has not just jobs, but housing, mental health, getting them reacclimated back. All this development, when you come home, it messes up your psyche. And what I notice, when you come to PG County, it's really no services that really help you. They tell you go to the one-stop shop and apply for a job. But what about housing? What about mental health?
And see, here's a problem. And this is politically this is a hill I run into politically. That's the same thing veterans say. That's the same thing battered women say. So if we have to prioritize our money, it is very hard to convince citizens, hey, let's focus on these cats that committed a crime before we focus on these women that were beaten, battered, and abused, or veterans that defended our country. Because we haven't done it for anyone. So I know that we are far from D.C. Now, mind you, D.C. has a lot more money coming in than people coming in. They have a lot more. They can depend on the federal system. They have a plethora of resources that we don't have. So the unions are where I've been leaning on. And also, I'll say this. I went back to my saying before, at some point, we got to stop hoping the government's going to do right. We really do. I mean, I'm part of it. It's not my career. It's just a part-time gig. But we got to stop hoping that they're going to come to our rescue, because they're not. We're always going to get left behind and be told, you've got enough. Your belly is full. So that's why I do work with the unions, why I work with churches for situations like that, because I believe we have a better outcome and opportunity through private industry of taking care of our returning citizens, our disabled veterans. Not as much for battered women. That's a whole struggle, maybe the churches. But I'm trying to address it, buddy. Thank you. Yes, sir. Cannabis? Well, and basically, I created the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Commission, as well as the Maryland Cannabis Administration, and got the director picked a month ago. What we're going to be doing is making sure that we have dispensaries, growers, and processors that are, I'm not going to say minority owned, but they're from these areas, because we can't remember, we got to keep it race neutral for this new Supreme Court. So we have, I think the first rollout is January the 1st, and I believe there's 80 dispensaries, 20 growers, and 20 processor licenses, as well as some micro growers and micro processor licenses. They're going to be giving out to what I called our equity license holders, which means you have to have lived in a certain area. You don't have to, it's either 5 of the last 10 years, or you have to go into public school in these areas. And they could be anywhere in the nation, or you have to have gone to a Maryland college for at least 2 of the 4 years. And we're 40% Pell Grants. That's basically that's not UDC. That's basically all HBCUs and University of Maryland, Baltimore. So you could have went to high school or a public school for 5 years in one of these areas. And I'll say this, and just for the cannabis stuff, please know this, that is not a golden ticket. Right off the bat, if you know anything about business, you know what you don't get to do with cannabis? None of your losses or expenditures or tax write-offs are the guys. It's still illegal. So in addition, while I did, because I regulate the banking industry, I was able to convince our local banks, just our local banks, to basically bank this money. But it's still federally illegal. So I had to use Maryland banks that I regulate and credit unions. And we have a loan loss prevention program, so the state will back $500,000 of loans to a dispensary, $1 million to processor and grower, but it costs $10 million to get a small operation and growing. And again, you've got to be able to actually run a business. For people that like weed, that doesn't mean you're going to be a good businessman. I'm not saying you can't do it, but the way I set it up is the qualifications aren't difficult, but you do have to show access to capital or a plan to get access to capital. Because anybody here knows that owns a business, that's not all your money. You went out and got investors. You found people that believed in you. You secured the necessary funds that it would take. Because what people tell me, and I love my people, it's always black folks, I need a license, I need you to tell me how to do it, and I need the money. So everything. You want me to give you, I could just give you money so you can go away, right? So my point is, it's doable, we've laid it out, but it still takes business acumen. I've got several of the HBCUs are going to be starting these basically incubation areas where they teach people how to do it. People need to understand taxes, and like I said, know this, black people, when you start making money, people are going to start watching you. So if you think that you can keep $100,000 of cash every month in a safe, you are wrong. And while the feds haven't got involved in too many marijuana things in the state, you know why? Because less than 2% of all the cannabis industry participants are minority. See, it's supposed to be about 30%, if I do it right, 30 to 40% in this state. Throughout the nation and every other state, 2%. So they really haven't had a need. But if you know one thing, when we start getting money, all of a sudden people start looking at you. So you better do right. If you're a dude that can't do right, if you're trying to pay your employees in cash, you're going to get it. If you're not banking all your money, you're going to get it. If you try to write off things that you shouldn't be writing off, you're going to get it. Again, I'm nervous about this because I'm hoping I could easily be setting people up for failure. I'm telling you, so everybody listen, it is a business. It's a business that a lot of people don't like, and they're not going to like you having money making it. So you not only have to know how to run a business, know how to get capital, you have to know how to keep your nose clean. So please, Lord, if you're interested in it, make sure you understand it is not a gold ticket. And we will have plenty of information, I promise. Yeah, and I'll give you my card. It's coming out. I created an Office of Equity and Inclusion, and their whole job is to make sure before the due date that people understand what the what the application process is. We're keeping the fees low to apply. It's like $5,000 up to $20,000, depending. But it's a low fee compared to the $500,000 it was for medical. And we're trying to do everything we can to make it accessible to my people. But I just need my people to listen. I know you might want to do this. Man, you need to be careful because you will go to jail if you don't do this right.
We'll take one more question, and then we need to take a quick break.
Yep. Thank you. Just a quick question. I know this is a thing at the state level, so I'm just asking you, and if you can expand on some of it. But the opportunities that's coming into the county and into the state through the digital equity divide that's happening, the lack of technology and trying to build up that technology within the county and throughout the states.
That's a huge issue. First of all, we don't have proper access to broadband in Canada. We're still working on that. Those cats that live out in Namsmore area still don't have, broadband issues. So as far as the digital divide, and again, they're talking about STEM as a way to get, your children involved. I'll say this county is way too wealthy to not be capitalizing on this. As a government, I can't tell you what this county is doing. I'm sure I can make up or find a bunch of buzzwords to make you feel good. But again, whenever I see the government get their hands too deep in something, I get a little nervous. The broadband issue is something we need to do. As far as pulling businesses out here, that comes with, not building so many houses that you can't put a building up. Making sure we have access, that we keep the roads upgraded so people want to build their house down there. But as far as the technological growth, and I could not tell you what on a state level besides obviously trying to grow as we've done the Indian Head, putting skiffs and things down there. But that's about it, bud. Good.
Let's give another round of applause for State Delegate Wilson. Thank you for your time and your story. I do got one quick question for you. Why didn't you join the Marine Corps? Semper Fi. You don't have to answer that. My head wouldn't. Gentlemen, real quick, we're going to take a real quick 5-minute break. You can get some refreshments or run to the men's room, and then we're going to come right back. Thank you. Gentlemen, we are back. Was that awesome? This first session is opening up. Who's going to follow that? Who's going to follow that? You all have a difficult task to follow. Following behind that. Amazing. But yes, so at this time, I'm going to introduce the members of the HYP group who will be our host for the remainder of the day. And first up, we have Tony Page, who is considered the closer of the group. And then we have Joe Hayton here, Joe Hayton Jr., who's considered the point man. And then last but certainly not least, we have Lewis Young Jr., and he is considered the glue of the team. All of them are very accomplished, successful men who really believes in giving back and reaching out to help bring up one another. They are not pompous, nor are they boastful about their accomplishments, but all of them are passionate about serving and believing we all will have the responsibility to give back. So without further ado, let's welcome our host of the HYP group who will speak about how to win. Let's give them a round of applause, everyone. Y'all missing y'all cue. You gotta.
Good morning. Amen. I tell you, that is a hard act to follow. Amen. The Bible says they overcame by the blood of the Lamb, the word of their testimony, man. And I promise you, man, times got better. The old folks would say times got better because he really came from the heart. And I was appreciative of his sincerity and his intentionalness. He could have came and gave us a whole lot of politics, but he gave us truthful love. Amen. He really did. So I'm thankful for that. Never good. Very thankful. Very thankful. Well, we are excited today. It's been about 3 years when we sat down and we really started getting into this piece and the heart that we have for not just men, but really seeing men grow to a level where they can have a safe place. Men are something else. We're different. We're built a different way. We're good when we're not good. How you doing, bro? I'm good. I'm good. Everybody's good. When we're not good. So having a safe place, and even being able to, the Bible says, to dwell in unity, oneness, have a safe place to be able to hear about entrepreneurship, about health and wellness, about all these different things that are so important in our community. Because men, we're going to get called first. God is going to always call who first? Adam. That's what he's going to do. He's going to call us first. So we need to be equipped. We need to be around other people who are serious, who are intentional about what they're doing. So we're excited because, we don't do this to get paid. We do this because we're being obedient to what God has called us to do. And I want to just give thanks to, Bishop, who's the angel of this house, Bishop Melvin Robinson Jr. Amen. Give him a hand. That's my brother, my CB. I thank God for him. I do. I thank God for him. I thank God for First Lady Cheryl Robinson, who's in the back. She's on the outside. But I promise you, she is a part of this HYP as well, behind the scenes. But I promise you, what you see here today, I'm going to give her look, come on, give her another hand, because she's amazing. She's amazing. And we appreciate you, sis. We appreciate you. So right now we have Brother Lewis Young, who's going to take it from here and invite his panel guests will come up now, right?
Yes, well, not quite. We're going to say a few words, Tony and myself, yes. Okay, first I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today. And before I go any further, I just wanted to give C.T. Wilson another round of applause for allowing God to use him today. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. Joe, Tony, and myself, we've been friends for years, and we all came together as servants, raising our kids, and we became best friends. And through serving our kids and raising our families, we decided to go into the community and help impact the community in a positive way. And we're talking about today winning in the game of life. In order to win in the game of life, first and foremost, you must maximize your purpose. Okay? And each and every last one of us in here has a God-gifted talent, a purpose, and an assignment. Okay? And what we are doing is trying to allow God to use us, use his light to shine through us to impact you. Because we all have a gift. Like I said, every last one of us have a gift. But your gift is not for you. Your gift is to impact others. My gift is to impact you, and your gift is to impact me. We make each other better. I can't bring your gift. I got to bring mine. If everybody bring their piece, we got something good, right? So that's what this is all about. We helping one another to impact one another. And what CT did today is God used him, because really, he covered every topic. He covered everything. We could have shut it down and just had a discussion. He covered everything. But he set the tone, and I'm just thankful you guys are here, and we can all come together and try to maximize our purpose and impact one another's lives. I'm passing on to Tony.
What I like to say is we really need to be standing up applauding the men in this room. Because you're here. And that's where it starts. What Coach Lou just said about getting information from one another, encouragement, empowerment, all of that stuff happens when you submit yourself to one another in love. Nobody knows it all. When you submit yourself to one another in love, let me tell you something. Powerful things happen. I'm grateful to be here. I shared this with you all last year. I got more out of being here than I gave. Because the same as you give is given unto you. And let me tell you something, I got a lot more. That's why under no circumstances was I not going to be here today. They asked us to talk about winning in life. Every person here are winners. You wouldn't be here if you wasn't a winner. We all have struggles. We all have struggled in our lives. But we're here, which means we have a chance. So I just want to encourage my brothers in love. Live your life, man, with kindness. Reach out and touch somebody. It's the little things that matter. When I look at the men in this room that I know personally, man, it brings tears in my eyes to think about how not only have I touched their lives, but how they've inspired me to be a better husband, a better father, a better Christian, and a better man. So let's make sure we love on each other today. So when we leave here, the love in this room will be infectious. That's right.
Thank you, gentlemen. At this point, now I do believe, so you all have your own, you have a panel that you're going to bring up?
Yes, sir. Dr. Anderson, Malcolm.
And I believe this is the section we're talking about countering violence and mental health, correct?
Dr. Austin?
Yeah, yes.
So on this session, we're doing the countering violence and mental health. So we do have another group of panelists up here, and we're just going to ask if each panelist could just take a few minutes and tell us about yourself.
Okay. 1, 2. Hello? Hello? Okay, here we go. Okay, first of all, again, I'm Lewis Young, and I'm going to open this discussion up. Before I open it up, I want to share with you guys why this particular panel is, I guess, important or touches my heart. I lost a son 6 years ago to gun violence in Baltimore. He got shot 13 times. 23 years old. He's no longer here. Malcolm's my stepson. He grew up with him. I have an older son. Hopefully he'll be here later. However, crime has affected me not only in that way, but I travel all around the country, all different states, different cities. I've been robbed in a hotel, point blank with a gun, by young black males. And I'm making a point here. I've been victimized in another city. My van broken into, vandalized, everything stolen out of. I've been shot at. And the reason I'm sharing this because all these situations were young black men doing it. Okay, and that's the narrative that we're seeing every day on television in the communities. Young black men killing one another, young black men robbing one another, young black men robbing old ladies, snatching cars. Every day is the narrative. However, we don't hear about the young black men like yourself who are doing the right thing. We don't talk about that. We see the athletes. I was talking to Joe the other day. We see the athletes, 3,000, what is it, about 3,000 a year, basketball and football, professional NBA basketball players, 3,000 every year. That's it. And we kind of like glorify them. We see their stories. However, when they do something negative, they talk about that real bad. And they don't elevate them when they're doing something good. So, and the reason I'm getting into all of this because crime prevention is widespread, and health and wellness goes along with that, if you understand what I'm saying. And a lot of the reason that our youth, our kids are doing what they're doing because they have mental health issues that needs to be addressed, like C.T. Wilson was speaking about today. And like I said, this is very passionate for me, and something has to be done, and that's a part of Maximize Your Purpose. We are on the ground trying to address these issues head on because we can't wait on nobody to do anything for us. I mean, they're going to talk about it, they're going to preach about it, the media is going to discuss it, but until we get on the front line, and like I was saying earlier, allowing the light in us to shine, so I can see the good in you, it brings out the good in me. You know, that's what this is all about. Us allowing the good in one another to bring out the good in the next person. So, without further ado, I'm going to pass this discussion over to Kevin, who is an ex-sheriff, I believe, police officer.
Yes.
Okay, and
The mic is working.
okay, good. And we'll go from there.
Good evening, guys. My name is Kevin McSwain. I'm a retired police officer with the Prince George's County Police Department. I served and did 29 years there. I'm currently with Park Police, 4 years in with Park Police. While I was with Prince George's County, I served as a community police officer. I served in the school resource unit. I served in our special operations unit, in the training and education division. All of those was units that allowed me to really get a good feel of why we are where we are. And I'm happy to be here to address whatever concerns, issues, and questions that you guys might have. Please understand this. This is very important to me. When I joined the police department, it was in 1989. My desire, my goal, from that time on, it was a ministry. God allowed me to go in dark places where most people don't want to go. You just live there. But it allowed me to go in dark places to shine light. The Bible says that God corrects those that he loves. So when a lot of people hear that I'm a police officer, immediately they form a bias based upon an experience they may have had at some point in their life. But then you forget that we're human. We got our own biases. We got our own training. So I hope that in this conversation today, it would give us an opportunity to really unlock some of the questions that you might have. The Bible says, in all your gettings, get understanding.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Herbert Alston. I serve as a pastor in the city of Baltimore, and I'm happy to be here. My story is rather different, probably from many. I grew up in a very rural area, South Carolina, and I decided to join the United States Army right out of high school. And I left because there was a lot of things that was changing in my community. I saw a lot of crime started happening, drugs started coming in. And to get away, I joined the United States Army, where we heard today that discipline was a part of my structure and what I learned. And I took that in everything, every area of my life, to be disciplined in every area of my life. And I'm that way today. In my home, I'm very disciplined in how I live and what I do. I'm very disciplined because at 32, my first wife was killed in a car accident by a young lady who was playing with a radio and ran a red light. And at the time, I had a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old who really needed me. So while I was dealing with myself and going through the difficulty of losing her, I had to ensure that these two young men didn't lose focus, that I kept them focused on goals and on life. And so I just want to be able to share about that today and hopefully just share some of the things that I've done. And I'll just share this. My oldest son today is he just graduated from Washington University in St. Louis. He's a PhD. He's a PhD in biochemistry, biophysics, and structural biology. And the Almighty God just blessed him. He's a professor at Harvard University. Amen. Amen. And so hopefully we can just share and just talk about that just a little bit. I'm extremely proud of him. Amen, because it was hard. It was difficult being a single father and a teenager, keeping him focused and disciplined in order to get to that point. And so hopefully we can just share a little bit more about that today.
Hello, you all. My name is Malcolm Crockett. My pops over there, Louis Young Jr. But my story, well, I'm a college grad. I have my bachelor's in criminal justice. Played college ball, but reverse that how I got there. So I grew up. My grandma raised me. My mom and dad were both incarcerated on drugs heavily. You know. Just speaking on like trauma and stuff, just remember them days, my mom going missing for long periods of time, and then me and my grandma going out, having to find her, and when we did find her, she'd just be strung out, you know what I'm saying? And those moments are still vivid, and I can remember them just like that, but what I tell, anyone, even though there's trauma and, things that you go through life, you either can let it bring you down, and let it affect you, throughout your life, or you can use it as motivation. And I use it as motivation. It self-motivated me. It made me say to myself, like, that's what I do not want to go, that route. That's who I do not want to be. And that's kind of like the mindset that I had that pushed me to get, through life. And, just going through trauma, it's always good to have someone you're able to talk to, because I think us as males, we don't want to show weakness and stuff, so we bottle a lot of that stuff in, and we don't express it. We don't talk to no one about it. We just hold it in, and then when it does come out, it comes out. It can come out negative, in a negative way, in a negative manner. And another thing is being able to have mentors. I didn't have my father in my life. I knew who he was. I knew where he was, but that didn't affect me. But I had mentors such as Tony Page, Louis. They were my father figures that I looked up to, and still to this day, having 3 boys, a wife, I'm married. Raising my sons, I raised them how I saw them raise their sons, because I appreciated how they raised their Then, 2016, Mom OD'd. I had to give her CPR. She didn't make it. And that was the year I graduated college, 2016. And it hurt. That was that, I said, even though it was the year I graduated, I played ball, so I had aspirations to go to NFL. Playing football my whole life, got free education, scholarship, whole 9 yards. It didn't go how I planned. I accomplished everything as far as free education, all of that, but the ultimate goal, and this would not, making it to the NFL, and mom passing the same years, I went into a depression for a year. It hurt, I was lost, didn't know what to do, but I just knew deep down that God had a plan for me. But the football had a purpose for me. So I just kept that mentality, stayed down, kept grinding, and like the theme of this is maximize your purpose. Once I found my purpose, it's like my business that I have right now. When you have a purpose, you want to maximize it. You want to maximize your purpose with confidence. You want to maximize your purpose with resilience. Maximize your purpose with determination. And I always, my mindset is this, if there's a will, there's a way. And just having them tools, having mentors such as them has enabled me to just get past out of my struggles in life. And being able to just speak to you all and just share my story. Appreciate you all.
pastoral staff of Praise Washington, D.C. Iron always sharpens iron. My journey started in a place called Post Office Box 25, Northern Virginia, where I found myself trying to find myself. And I believe that winning, what constitutes winning in this game we call life, is always requires, what it requires is having unselfish coaches who are able to see what you can't see. They see the potential that you have. So over 40 years ago, while I was there, the person who inspired Mr. Page, his mother, I had the opportunity to sit under her feet and get coached. Unselfishly, this lady labored year after year. So that 12-year involvement that I had with her, being a student of her coaching, has allowed me to be man, father, pastor, no limits, not allowing my background, my yesterday, to define my today. She would always sit and tell us, you can do, and this was a scripture that I embraced, I can, not might, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. And my plight from that point on was to dedicate my life to learning as much as I could to become an unselfish coach. With that being said, can I do my whole presentation now? Okay, all right. So, when I got released from my vacation, I knew I needed to go back to school. I was inspired to go back to school. I went back to school and I got my certifications for substance abuse. And all this is going to tie in. I got my certifications for substance abuse because I needed to understand what that part of my life was really all about. Why using the substances that I used seemed like a reasonable thing to do. It had a purpose. Got my certifications and got elevated in the field of addiction, from a counselor, manager, to director, to getting my own company, American Management Recovery Strategies. So when they said I couldn't, I started my own company to show that I could. Awarded with contracts from the International Narcotics Matters Division of the State Department. Blessed to go all over the world. When the delegate was talking about wanting to develop an appreciation for this country, I was blessed with an opportunity to see universal pain and how it was being covered, if you will, and an appreciation for love of this country. I'm also a veteran, Vietnam era veteran. But what I want to talk about, when I was talking with Mr. Young, he's a shrewd dude. When they said he's the glue of that team, I can understand that. We have a friendship that goes, I guess, maybe about 35 years. Yeah. So he wanted me to talk about substance abuse. He wanted me to talk about mental health and how all of this deals with our problem of today. And that problem of today is no one, I won't say no one, let's say the government mismanagement, misdiagnosing our children, our male children. They put people like me, they gave me a clinical diagnosis for post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, for trauma from my military service. But I want to share with you what they did with our children, how they misdiagnosed them. Because when little boo-boo from Southeast Washington, Northwest Washington, Ohio, wherever, would go to school, and the teacher say, sit down, and he say, why? She sent him to a school counselor who would then start the diagnosis of defiant disorder. Let's give him some Ritalin to put him under control because he has a behavioral disorder. Connecting substances, mind or mood altering chemicals as a relief, but not taking the time to explore why. Why? What is really going on with this young man? That wasn't important. Her need to feel in control and him to be submissive was more important than trying to find out why he was responding the way that he responded. So we talk about, and I classify all of them under the category of PTSD as well, but it wasn't post-traumatic stress. It's post-traumatic slavery disorder, being enslaved by a people who continue to oppress them and tell them they cannot succeed, rather than introducing them and involving them with coaches that might help them because their mood and mind has been impaired. So when we talk about that mental health disorder, first we gotta realize the stigma. Can you picture little boo-boo? Trauma begins at home. When the black father is already feeling less than, not able to do the things that he feels he needs to do or wants or desires to do because he's given up and found substance abuse or substance use as a way out for him. He's given up. As a result of that, the mother is struggling trying to raise this child. But the child's mind begins to be confused because he sees a father who's still in the home but beating the mother. He's being traumatized and also being enslaved mentally with how men should treat women. That influence. Do you see that? So the home environment starts the process. He goes to school. And on the way to school, he sees Johnny, his friend, get shot. And he's supposed to cope with something he don't understand. And he's angry. And no one is addressing why he's angry. But Billy, who tells him, that's another one of his friends, let's go handle this. And somebody else's mother is now at the morgue identifying her son. Because the empowerment of post-traumatic slavery that's enslaving these kids to a way of life that they don't understand. You have the community, the involvement in the community. So you got home, you got school, you got community. The trauma that these kids go through. Some get lucky and may find a way out through sports. Some may get lucky and find a way out fighting, boxing. And now we have this group that likes to rap. And that particular group expresses their disdain for where they are under the influence of substances that keeps their mind impaired, where they won't be able to do the things that God has really designed for them to do or created them to do. And why does it continue to happen? Because the people who have the money pay for, they give them the bling, the contracts, and all of that as long as they're spreading negative captivity for our children. So you have the substance abuse. I'm getting ready to close this, man, but they deal with the stigma. Now they're trying to deal and find their way how to get through the stigma. But this ain't no joke. It really is not a joke. And until we that are conscious really get to a point where we can redirect where they are, the only thing that happens in our community is drugs and more guns and more violence, black on black, black on black, black on black. So I say to you that is conscious, awake now that see this, we're going at it the wrong way. We've got to meet them where it starts and not where we hope it could be. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Now, we do have somewhat of a time schedule, so we gotta, there's another panelist group. No, you're fine, sir, thank you. There's another panelist group that we wanna get up here before lunch, and we're probably gonna break to lunch about 12:30-ish, somewhere around there. But we wanted to engage the panel while we all have you here. So there are a few questions that we have for you all, and I'll just throw a couple of them out. I don't know if there's any questions online. Do we have someone monitoring that at all? Okay, so remember, those of you all who are watching on Facebook or YouTube, you can put your questions in the live chat, and we'll do our best to try to get to it. But let's just start this off this way. Currently, you'd have to almost be living in a cave not to see the violence that's taking place in our neighborhood that we've already spoken about. And then on the flip side, even from a community standpoint, the mistrust that has taken place between the community and the police department. So, sir, you notice I'm about to direct the first question to you. How would you recommend, especially for a lot of our young brothers and even some of us older ones, even our state delegate said that he even gets pulled over by the police, even with his delegate tags and some of the unnecessary questions that they ask him. What would be your recommendation for any one of us, if wherever we may be, when we get pulled over by the police, how should we respond?
Whenever you get pulled over by the police, the first thing that I would encourage everyone to do is to get your license and registration so that you already have it. That's the first thing I would ask you to do. That eliminates you having to reach over into your glove box. That eliminates you having to open up your center console so what happens in the academy, officers are actually trained to watch your hands. It's the only thing that's going to hurt us, okay? That's the one thing that we're looking at. Attitude. It goes both ways. Attitude goes both ways. If you want respect, you hope to get respect. But here's the problem. The police identify themselves as being in control. So because they identify themselves as being in control, you can't have two people in control. My job is to go home at night. My job is to make sure you go home at night. Ideally, we want to make sure that you can have some level of accountability. If I come up to your car and you ask me a question, ideally, I'm going to give you an answer. Some people won't. Don't take it the wrong way. If you take it the wrong way, it goes in a different direction. The officer feels empowered. That's what we're trained to do. That's what we're taught to do. Be empowered. Be in control of the stop. Go home. Many times we got super dark tint windows. We can't even see in the car. We can't even see your hands. So where you guys feel like the victim in the stop, like we're controlling it, you don't understand our experiences as well. 34 years, 3.5 decades I've been doing this job. We want you to go home. We really do. So being polite, being respectful, you can record the stop. Let them know that you're recording the stop so that you don't go into a different direction. Ideally, if you're going to record my voice, you have to get my permission. You can video me all day long, but technically, you're supposed to get my consent.
So Officer McSwain, if I'm hearing you correctly, because knowing our audience, especially for our young brothers, the first thing I hear you say is, don't drive without having a driver's license. we got to make this relevant to our culture. So first thing is, don't drive if you don't have a driver's license. And secondly, take the dark tints off your windows. We can start right there, right? That's a joke, but it actually is serious.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of us do drive with tinted windows, and we don't have driver's licenses. Then it's the police fault when they pull us over. But what he did say is, if I'm hearing you correctly, on a more serious note, but I was being serious about that too, is that if you're pulled over by the police officer, by any police officer, just make sure that you have your license and registration available. Don't do a whole lot of movement, and be polite. And oftentimes, you being polite, even if you do have one of those officers that may be having a bad day at that point, and I'm assuming that we're all Christian men here that you can speak a kind word and you can change the situation. It's our responsibility to de-escalate as well. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things is responsible. Just being accountable.
It's a two-way street that we all have to be.
It is.
Responsible. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to add, when you get pulled over, I think one of the first steps as well to do is just to drop down all your windows, because like you spoke on the tents and stuff. Even if you have tents, you don't roll them down. Then you suppose it's your car. That gives them reasonable suspicion.
Absolutely.
Even if it's tinted, they can't see what's going on. So now they're like, all right, might put their hand on a gun or something. They just don't know. You know what I'm saying? So if I get pulled over, I drop all my windows.
Roll down all your windows. Roll down all your windows. Thank you for that. Another question, and Bio, is there any questions on the floor? Again, there's microphones in the middle of the aisles. So if you do have a question, we got time for a couple more questions. Just come up to the microphone. But the second question, yes, sir, go ahead.
One of the operative words that we should use is respect. And I believe you mentioned that. And I think a lack of respect will cause a lot of issues as well. So in addition to everything that has been said, I think respect is important.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And just as the timekeeper, sir, let's get the 2-minute answer.
Should have flagged me. Real simple, man. I've got 4 sons that live in D.C. Most of them have tinted windows, and I tell them, windows down. Let them see. Respect them.
If I may just add to that, a lot of times we're just thinking of police when we're being pulled over on the highway. But what happens when you have a student on a college campus and they don't think you should be there? And so many times, my son, he's 6'3", about 290, and he's walking into the building, and he's the one of 3, I think, in the whole entire college. One of 3 African-American men in the college, and every time he walks in, they stop him at the door. And I said to him, son, you have to remain cool. You have to remain calm. Don't need to get aroused. I mean, we understand who we are in this country. And the thing is, you're there to learn. So don't get carried away by the fact that they're stopping you, that you do have your ID card around your neck and they're still going to question you. It has your picture and they see you every day and they know that you're one of 3 on the campus. So we're thinking of that, but we have to think of the larger picture. It's not just about being in the car, but it's about the perception of being black and the possible danger that you pose to me as an individual. And it's not just, I'm gonna leave that part alone. But we have to be mindful of the overall scope because it's so important. And can I just share when it comes to that as well, it begins at home. We need, if we're a father, if you're a grandfather, an uncle, to be present at home, to be present in the life of that young man. Is that right? Because I don't want to give or have the police be the one who's trying to, quote unquote, discipline my son. My responsibility as a father is to ensure that he understands how to carry himself. And so in my household, my son was never ever allowed to walk around without his belt on. You hear what I'm saying? We don't need to see what you put on. We need to see you as a decent man walking in society. We need you to learn how to speak, so I need you to read a dictionary. I need you to read a book, so that way when someone approach you, even if you didn't go to the college, you sound like you're intelligent. My grandfather only went to the 5th grade, but he was one of the most intelligent men I ever knew, because at the end of every day, he came home and he opened his Bible, he opened his dictionary, he spent hours reading. So when he stood in the pulpit on a Sunday morning, you would have thought he had graduated from one of the top universities in the country, because he spent time studying and time putting things into his mind. And if I can just say this lastly, when it comes to all of this, it's about how much we are spending time minding our mind. Am I spending time developing who I want to be? Because if I don't give myself a positive story, if I don't tell myself a positive story of how my life will end, I'm only telling and filling my mind with the negative things that could possibly happen and the potential that I cannot have. But if I share with myself and continue to tell myself these positive stories and continue to reinforce those positive things in my life, and then if I find that there are men who are doing well, who are successful, gravitate towards them. And last point, as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, my grandfather on Sundays would oftentimes leave me with his older deacon. He was 76 years old. The reason I loved being around him is because he was going to feed me. But as I got older, I realized that he was imparting some things in my life that I still gleam towards today. So when it comes to us living in America, we think that we have struggles. I've lived outside of this country. I've been to Africa, Asia, Europe, and I'm telling you, we live well. The poorest of the poor is not poor here in America. But if we embrace that mindset and thought process, that's where we are. That's where we live. We have to be able to think differently about ourselves, train and teach our young men to think differently and positively about themselves, and then fill their minds with something that at the end, they have a result of something that's beautiful, something that's wonderful. And last, I have six children, 4 daughters, 2 sons. And it's so important to me that I'm their role model. I'm not looking for anyone else to be their role model. I want to be the role model in their life, because at the end of the day, when everyone else is not there, I need to be there at night. I need to be there in the day, show up at school, show up at extra school activities, because at the end of the day, it is my responsibility, and God is going to hold me accountable for what I did or failed to do in their life. Thank you.
Thank you. Officer McSwain, I think you had one more point you wanted to make, and then after he finishes, we're going to take a quick 2-minute break, 2 minutes, and then we're going to get in this the one more panel before we break for lunch. Yes, sir.
I just want to address something that he just said. It's very important that you guys are aware. Typically, when you have officers who are recruited outside of your community, they can't relate. They can't identify with you. So they don't speak your language. So to understand that, we can't say that you're the problem. You have to get involved. You have to join. You have to put the uniform on, get on the inside. Once you get on the inside, you get an opportunity to make change. Every person that I had an opportunity to come across, my goal was to correct, because God corrects those that he loves. Now, let me go right back to addressing the issue. When you get stopped in traffic, we have probable cause. You committed a violation, meaning you're under arrest. You're not free to go. If you are playing basketball on the basketball court, you got to know the law. If you understand the law, you won't be disrespected. You won't overreact. So if you get stopped playing basketball on the basketball court because somebody gave your description, and it's always a black male wearing a black t-shirt, white t-shirt, whatever, you guys get the point. But the problem is, unless you've committed a crime, we're not a stop and ID state. There are different states that are stopping ID. Nevada. You go to Vegas and they say, I need your ID. They don't need probable cause. They don't need to say that you committed a crime. Just reasonable suspicion. What are you doing here? But in Maryland, you have to have committed a crime. I need probable cause, meaning Joe said, that young man right there wearing glasses, a nice shirt on, he committed the crime. He stole. Now I can stop and ID. I can't stop and ID him. And our young black men, listen, if you're not from the community, where do you think they're going to go to acquire an arrest? Many of us, when you get violated, you don't follow up. We have internal affairs for a reason. File a complaint, but we don't do it. They play on ignorance. Now, this is not all cops. We got a lot of great cops. I love my brothers who do the job the right way. But come on, man, you guys can't make it difficult for us to do the job the right way. I'm gonna stop.
Thank you. I think the main takeaway that we could take away from all of it, if I could just kind of comprise all of what you all said, is the first thing that we need to remember is, to the best of our ability, to educate ourselves on all aspects of the law and how we conduct ourselves. We all play a part in it, so we all have to take responsibility. That's us as citizens and the police department, fathers, mentors, coaches, mentor, coach, and father the younger generations that's come up, and we can first start doing that by being an example and as well as educating them, because I believe that we all equally play a part in this, and we all equally have to be responsible, not only for ourselves, but for one another. And then lastly, accountability. If in fact that you do think or believe that you've been treated wrong or your rights have been violated, there are processes that we can do where we can file complaints, and we no longer have to continue to say that they're not treating us right. We can all come together as a community, and once we educate ourselves, go through those proper processes. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I think I got all of you all in some sense. Well, thank you all for your time and your input. We're truly blessed by this time that we've had with you all. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break. Now, if you don't need a break, feel free to stand by, but if you need to go to the men's room, they're right down the hall. And if the quicker you all come back, we can get started with the next panel, and then we'll break for lunch. Okay? Okay, we're live. Let's give yourself a hand of applause. All right, that's better. That's better. We had practice already. So welcome back. And this session is the session that we all want to hear. We're about to talk about money, finances. And at this point, Pastor Joe Hayden, I'm going to turn the floor over to him, and let's get rocking.
All right. It's been amazing, hasn't it, Joe? Great information. This is great. Amazing. Real exciting, man. This is something that is near and dear to my heart. Entrepreneurship, well, not entrepreneurship, investing and finances. I get very excited about finances every day. Every morning I get up. I have a routine. I do my devotion, and then I look over my finances. I pray to God to bless my finances, to give me wisdom and understanding in different areas where I can grow my finances and do better for the kingdom. And that's true. That's real every day. And then I work out, okay? Get my mind right. It's my therapy, amen? But this part of it, the segment, is something that we as men have to make sure that we get intentional. Proverbs 4:7 says, in all your wisdom, get an understanding. That means you can have wisdom, okay, and not understand. And I'm trying to tell you, man, so we have people up here today who's going to be able to really give us a quick insight on how to get better, how to grow, okay? If you want to get better, you need to be around people who what? Can sharpen you. And I've already been there, all right? I mean, I'm not a builder, but if I read long enough, I can study, I can build a house, but it would take me a long time. But what I'm going to do is put my money up and find me a real good builder to build for me, all right? So what we're going to do today is we got some questions, with brevity of time. We're moving with, this is good information. And I don't like moving out of the spirit because sometimes you get on something that's so good, you know what I mean? And then we got to throw water on it because we got a program. But amen, but we're going to do this every year. So guess what? We're going to be able to come back and we're going to hit the things that we missed, amen? All right, so first, right now, what I want to do is we're going to go ahead and let everyone, we're going to give them the question, then they can kind of introduce themselves and then go ahead and answer the question, all right? And we're going to go ahead and hit this, all right? As far as time-wise, we're going to give each person a good solid 10 minutes, all right, to really hit it and slam it, all right? I got my good friend here, Wayne Smith. Wayne Smith is an accountant, and he is, amen. And he's not just accountant, he's a good one, all right? Because my thing is you can have doctors, you can have lawyers, you can have all that stuff, but I don't want that doctor that's not the A doctor working on me. All right? I want the one that got A in medical school, all right? This guy is amazing. He does a great job. I wanted to throw this question out. When you're setting up a business, what are the things you need to look at from a tax perspective? Some of the things when you're setting up and starting your business, whether it should be an S Corp, whether it should be an LLC, what are the things you should look at when you tie that up tight when you start a business? And you can just introduce yourself to your own self. I'm sorry.
How's everybody? All right, let's just jump into the question. I'll give you a little bit of background on me in a little bit. So when you're starting your business, the first thing you want to look at is what type of business do you have? If you have, can you guys hear me? So what type of business do you have? Okay, if you're going to have employees, whatever you're trying to do. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the IRS website, get your EIN number. Whatever state you're in, you're going to register with that state. Okay, that's the first thing. Now, the second thing is, getting your finances together. Okay, so again, a lot of us, we don't have that capital initially, so we're looking for investors. We're going for loans at different banks and everything like that. But what you want to be able to do once you get your business established is you want to be able to use the other person's money, not using your money, okay? So those are just basic things that you want to do once you're starting a business. So I'll give you just a little background on having a sole proprietorship, an LLC, the difference between a C Corp and a S Corp, all right? So basically, a sole proprietorship is just you. You don't even need an EIN number. You can use your social security number and you can start the business. You don't even have to register with the state, okay? An LLC, the difference between an LLC and a sole proprietorship is basically, it's called a limited liability company, okay? And the difference is that you're protected. Your personal assets are protected, okay? So if you get sued for whatever reason, they can only go after your business assets. Personal assets are protected. Now, sole proprietor, everything is at risk. So if you get sued, they can go after your personal, you know what I'm saying, your business, kids stuff, whatever. All right? So let's talk about a C Corp. Anybody familiar with a C Corp? Pretty much, okay. So basically, it's a business structure where profits are taxed separately from the owner. So when you start a corporation is a separate entity. You know, a corporation is just like a person, okay? You can build corporate credit. So you treat that business as a separate entity. And just some of the basic things you need to know, you know, just about a C Corp. If I'm going too fast, you guys let me know. So I just jotted down some notes. So again, it's treated as a separate entity from the owner. So what happens there? So as it's treated as a separate entity, you're taxed twice. So you're taxed as the owner, and then the business is taxed. So with a C Corp, you're taxed twice. All right, those are the major differences between a C Corp and S Corp. S Corp, you know, you're elected to have your taxes go through a pass-through entity. So what happens is you avoid that double taxation. Everybody with me? Okay? So that's one of the main things. Another quick point about a corporation, a C Corp, is that you have unlimited shareholders. Okay? Unlimited shareholders. And just say if I'm from another country and I want to come here and start a corporation, an S Corp, no problem. I have unlimited shareholders. I can pretty much do what I want to. I don't even have to be a citizen of the United States. So just say if I'm a citizen, I can still, you know, come. But if I'm not a citizen, I can come right here and start a C Corp. All right? Unlimited shareholders, everything. And with the S Corporation, you can't do that. You only have a limited amount of shareholders that you can bring in. So your investors, you can only have 100 investors. Okay, and each investor has to be a citizen and they have to live in the United States. Okay, so those are just some points. But one thing I want to share with you guys about a C Corporation. Now, when we're dealing with business, we're going to either have a profit or we're going to have a loss. Okay, so if you're a C Corp, if your business takes that loss and you have investors, you have shareholders, your shareholders, once they get that K1, and that a K1 tells you know, each shareholder what their percentage is of that profit and that loss. All right? So, bro, if me and you are in business, we take a loss, can't write anything off. So that's one of the downfalls of having a C Corp. So if the business takes a loss, as a shareholder, you can't write that off on your taxes at all. All right? S Corp, you can. So like I said, there's a lot of little points, a lot of pros and cons to both of them, okay? And just another good one here. So just say once your business starts making money, okay? Once your business starts making money. Now, as a C Corp, once the business starts making money and you have those profits, okay? So let me just check my notes here. Covered that. All right. So, going back to it. Now, this is a really good one. Most individuals, sole proprietors, business owners and everything, we have to pay self-employment taxes. So what happens is, once you have a C Corp, you know, it doesn't allow you to save money on your self-employment tax. So that's a tax that's imposed based on the amount of money that you made for that year. So you have a self-employment tax that you have to pay. All right, so with a C Corp, you can't save money on that. Now with an S Corp, you actually can. So like I said, there's another tidbit in everything. So I'm not going to continue to ramble on, but S Corp also allows you to pay yourself a salary. You can't do that with a C Corp. All right, and from that salary, what happens is you have expenses. So once you pay yourself that salary, that's an expense. All right, from that profit. So based on the profits that are left over, you can actually pay yourself dividends. So now, once you have those dividends, all right, that affects your profit, Okay, so now you're saving about 15%, 15 to 20% on your self-employment taxes. All right, so what you got, Joe?
Well, what I have is understand what you're doing with your taxes. All right? Understand. Get an accountant. When you start up your business, you need to find someone who knows what they're doing. Because when I first started my business, literally, this was almost 20 years ago, I had to learn the hard way. I didn't do it the right way, because I was trying to do different things, and I did an LLC, and I wasn't paying myself a salary, and then I was trying to do some other movements. They said, well, what's your income? And so it's a lot of things that you have to do personally that's what's best for you, all right? But you got to make sure the IRS and those folks are not the people you want to mess with. Trying to tell you something real, real good up here, all right? Amen? Thank you so much, man. I pray that y'all are listening to... Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
No, anybody have any questions about anything? Like my firm, we do taxes, anything financial for the business, my firm handles. Again, I'm Wayne Smith. I've had my business about 22 years now. I work for myself. About 20 of those years. So just a country boy from Louisiana. And I just wanted to share something. Everybody who had a testimony, I realized that we all have gone through something, and what you go through makes you stronger. So my man back here, I was listening to you. So what you've gone through, don't let that define you, okay? So I know that you're looking for help, you're looking for support and everything, but don't let your situation or what you've gone through define you. Because like the delegate was up here, I thought I had a powerful testimony. I didn't grow up with my mom. I didn't grow up with my dad. My mom was the type, once she found a man, she was gone for days at a time. I don't remember a time when my mom helped me with my homework. I'm talking about kindergarten. Mom was gone. We raised ourselves. So at a young age, you're wondering where your next meal is going to come from. So I didn't have that grandmother to go to. So I feel your pain. But at a young age, I decided that, I could become a product of my environment, or I could do everything in my power not to become a product of my environment. So that was my drive. That was my force. People telling you every day you're not going to be anything because your dad's not anything. You know what I'm saying? Not going to amount to anything. So, brother, no matter what your situation is, you can change your situation. But to do something, to have something different, you got to do something different. You feel me? Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing the information. As being a consultant for small business startup, a couple things that I recognize. One is having a business plan, which is so important to have a business plan.
Absolutely.
The second thing in working with my client is that what they realize, it caught them by surprise, and I would suggest that any business, or depends on kind of business that you have, sales taxes.
Yes.
Because if in fact that whatever business that you have, whether it's in restaurant, retail, there are sales taxes that are expected to pay, because what happened with my client, he ended up owing $150,000 in sales taxes to the state of Maryland, all because he didn't have an accountant like yourself to understand what the responsibility is. The third thing is having a software that allows you to track whatever, like QuickBooks or something like that. I think these are the kind of tools that will help those who are in a startup business or minority business or entrepreneur, and these are kind of things that they need to have. My question to you, what would you think the best thing for a startup business to do? Because apparently there are some information. So what would you recommend that someone who have a desire to start a business, who may have some capital or some investment, everything that you talk about, they're ready, set, and go, what would you recommend they start to do first to allow them to be a very successful entrepreneur?
Excellent question. So, two-part answer. First and foremost, before you get in business, three things. all right? I'm just trying to, how am I gonna say? Three things. Know your stuff, okay? Definitely know your skill set, okay? Offer a fair price. A lot of times, as black business owners, we're looking for that one hit. So we overcharge, people don't come back to us. So have a fair price. You know, do your research, see what your skill set is going for. Third thing, most important thing, customer service. Customer service, customer service, customer service. I guarantee you, if you follow those 3 steps, you will never want for a client. Absolutely. Now, what I would recommend as far as starting your company, so once you've gotten your EIN number, once you've gotten all the licenses that you need, okay? Now, if you can't afford an accountant, what you do is you buy QuickBooks. QuickBooks they have pictorials. They'll show you how to track your expenses, how to track your income, how to do your financial statements. You know, you can click on there and you can actually import your bank statements direct. You don't have to go to the bank anymore. You can import your statements directly into QuickBooks. You can set rules. Just say if you have a gas expense, you have a meal expense. You can set rules where every time something dings, Exxon, okay, McDonald's, whatever it is, it goes directly into that rule that you've set up. Okay, so it's very important as you start business to track, because 9 times out of 10, a business takes a loss the first 3 to 5 years. Okay, but if you're tracking everything and you're doing what you're supposed to do, the IRS is not going to mess with you. Okay, and even if they do a random audit, you have that paper trail. So it's very important to set it up correctly initially, because if you set it up correctly initially, you're not going to have any problems in the long run. So as your business grows, you already have the foundation set.
All right. Thanks so much, Wayne.
Thank
We
you,
appreciate
gentlemen.
it.
I
Most
appreciate
definitely. Give him a hand. Excellent. 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 All right. We're going to move over. We've got Joshua Garrison. Amen. Joshua's a young man. Joshua's 25.
Yes, sir.
25 years old. He has his own business and several businesses, I believe. He's doing
Yes,
super well. We're going to let him kind of explain how he got started, in the business world, and what are some kind of keys you can give them when they're trying to start a business.
As he said, my name is Joshua Garrison. I have my wife with me and my 2 children. I own 5 businesses, and then I freelance on trading stocks. The 5 businesses that I own, I wrote them down even though I own them sometimes out of order. I got to write it in order. I started off trading stocks. I have a mobile detailing company. I ended up opening a construction company. I started construction when I was 15, and I've been doing it for roughly 10 years now. One of them is design, build, and renovation of houses and commercial buildings. It is my dream company. Takes a lot of capital from what I realized in the past 2 years to do. I also own a excavation company that does land clearing, site development, utility. We're currently undergoing our utility license. We just got awarded our big GC license, and then the other one I own is a credit repair business that helps people that is going into businesses build a personal credit so that they can personally guarantee things for their business. A lot of people do not know. When building business credit, if your business is operating under a $3 million threshold, you have to PG everything, which doesn't mean it's going on your personal credit, but your personal credit has to qualify for you to get business credit. So I help people build that up. Then you have a thing called, in that business, you have a thing called credit card stacking or loan stacking, when you're trying to get funded for $500,000 or something like that, and you can't secure 10% of that $500,000 or 10% of that $1 million line. You can do it in various ways off of your personal credit, PGing your personal credit to do to build that capital under your business. I got started when I went broke. I went completely broke. We had our daughter, and we had to move out. We was in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. I might have missed that. I had to move out of Raleigh, North Carolina to Virginia, Chesapeake, Virginia. I got offered a job as a field engineer. I went up there for roughly about 7 months, before I was able to bring my fiance up there. Things were going good up there. Then COVID-19 happened. I was making, I think I was, how old was I? About 21, and I had a $70,000 income. I had money left over, so then I started trading stocks. I got advice from a good buddy of mine. I got into stocks. My credit wasn't the best at the time, so then I self-repaired my own credit with getting Navy Federal. Best second chance bank there is in this entire world. If you can get it, get it. I repaired my credit a little bit, got into Navy Federal. I started understanding credit. I started reading books. I started reading, getting more versatile in the credit world. Then, as I'm still trading stocks alone with this. I figured out that in trading stocks, you need a big cash account. However, the goal a day for me at that time, my goal a day was to make $1,000 a day, $500 to $1,000 a day. The average American makes roughly $270 a day. I wanted to beat that along with my job because I had an expensive hobby in race cars and I still had a family to take care of. So to mesh both of them together, building my credit and trading stocks, I took out a loan for, I want to say, $5,000 at first. And I had the loan for 6 months, ended up paying it off in 3 weeks. I took out the $5,000 loan. After that, I went to 15. After 15, I went to 30. I lost some money with the $30,000 loan. Ended up having to pay that back myself. Then I decided to go again, take risks. I'm a risk taker, big risk taker. The bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. After that, I took out a $50,000 loan in the stock market. I'm put it in the stock market, and from there, I've been investing since. And it's a wealth builder. You don't have money until you can make money while you sleep. You don't have money until your money is growing while you're doing nothing but spending money or enjoying life, enjoying your family. I have a passion for racing cars. Naturally, I kept my cars clean naturally. I love to wash cars. I decided that I wanted to do a side hustle. I'm all about making money. I am all about making money. This was before I got saved. I started a side hustle of detailing cars. It became very lucrative. At one point, it was just me, and I was making $5,000 a month just washing cars on the side. 10 days a week, and that was it. From there, I've grown the business, still in construction, still had the mindset for construction. I wanted to build affordable housings for people, but then I also wanted to build houses on the higher end of things. In reading a lot, you get to watching big entrepreneurs, you get to watching people in the big real estate game. Real estate is very lucrative because God isn't making any more land. Real estate, land, along with the stock market, land is the highest wealth tool that you can have. If you own it, ownership is the best thing to have. If you own it, you can leverage it. If you can leverage it, you have power. You have power, the world is yours for the taking. Where was I at? I know I was trying to hit it fast. I started the construction company, and I had I had my life savings, and I didn't tell my wife about it at the time. We had $250,000 sitting in the bank. The biggest thing about opening a business that I did not, about going into the construction game that I did not know was the amount of money it took. And at the time being, I think I was 22, $250,000 was a lot of money just sitting around and you're still growing. It's a lot of money. I believe I got saved around this time, but I didn't have the 3 principles that I live by when opening a business, opening every business that I own, which is knowing my what, knowing my why, and the how-to. When you know your what, your why becomes easy. When you know your why, the how-to becomes even easier. I didn't study my market. I didn't know what I could offer to be the best. So I blew through that $250,000 really, 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 really fast. Because I like shiny things, I like new things. And when I do something, I like to do it the best. I don't half do anything that I do. So $250,000 got gone really, really fast. From there, I started to study business. I started reading books. They say you want to hide something from the black man, put it in a book. I started reading books. I understood. I revamped the whole business before I opened another business. I found investors. Being an entrepreneur, you have to be crazy, I found out, because you got to believe that you're going to get rich. You got to believe that you're going to make a living. And then you got to sell your dream to investors. So you got to make people believe, not make them, that's the wrong term, but you have to sell your dream to somebody else to have them believe in you. And then as they're believing in you, you're the top dog of it, you're the CEO of it. You're going to make the most money before they make money, but you use their money to make your money, correct? You have to be crazy. That's the best way to put it to me, because you got to be willing to work long hours. You got to get up early, go to bed late, and you got to be willing to be the lowest man on the totem pole for a long time. From there, I opened up an excavation business because the design, build, and renovation, that company, like I said, it takes a lot of money to do that. Excavation, I figured out excavation work, laying pipe, doing utilities. Man, it makes a lot of money, and not a lot of people know how to do it. Not a lot of people have the capital to secure the licenses that's needed. It's called, construction is the good old boy system, correct? Where it's the white man's game, realistically. And I don't tend to be racist or anything up here. It's just, it is what it is. Usually most black people are just laborers, or, if you get lucky, you might become a foreman. If you get real lucky, you might become a superintendent. Most of the time, you're just a laborer because you can't afford to get the licenses. You don't know the how-to do the things that you need to do. Once I found out excavation work was the most profitable thing, I opened up a company in that. I just opened that company this year, and honestly, it's the most profitable business that I have. And from there, not from there, a little bit in between there, I jumped around a little bit. Okay. Questions?
All right. Do we have any questions? First of all, I want to say your story, your testimony, 25 years old. Give this man a hand. I'm trying to tell you. Listen. And I mean that. I mean that. God bless you, son. I mean, you are, you're getting it. And that is just such an encouragement to see a young man who's so focused with a family. It really does my heart good, and all of us, to see that. That's amazing, son. That's amazing. Do we have maybe one question or so anyone has? Amen.
Yes, sir. No, to be completely honest with you, I was a smart student in school. Like I retain knowledge and can take tests without studying for it. But I was a gang member. I liked women a lot. I was involved in stuff I wasn't supposed to be involved in. My uncle thought I wasn't going to live to see past the age 18. So when I turned 15, he took me into construction. He was showing me if I don't do anything with my life, he has a route for me. I didn't have to sell drugs. I don't have to chase a lifestyle that I wasn't supposed to be living. So I got into it at 15. He taught me everything that I knew up until roughly 3 years ago. He showed me everything. That's how I got into it. And then from there, construction, a lot of people don't really know it. Construction is big money.
It is.
The white collar, people look at, the engineers, architects, they look at people that's on Wall Street and stuff like that, white collar jobs, like that's the biggest money maker tool. However, this country wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for a blue collar worker. It is the most forgiving industry there is, and owning a construction company as a minority is very, very, very lucrative in today's time. So that's the short answer for it.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric. We appreciate that. Great job. Very motivational. We appreciate it. Amen. All right. Next we have Eric Smith. Eric, is it software engineer company?
Yeah, software engineer.
Software engineer company. And how old are you, Eric?
38.
Man, listen, man, look at this, man. Two young brothers over here. We got to step our game up, y'all. I'm trying to tell you. We got to step our game up, man. They're doing their thing. Amen. So, Eric, tell us a little bit about how you started your business and, did you have to use your own capital or how did you go about doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Eric Smith. I own a company, Tista Science and Technology, as well as a nonprofit, Bridges Foundation. We started the company about 12 years back. We went through all of our customers are the federal government, right? And that came from a lot of trial and error also. We went from the commercial side, state and local side, and we saw that the federal government was the most prevalent and the most profitable type of business that we could have. So getting started for me, I've always been an entrepreneur, right? So I started my entrepreneurial pursuit doing lawn services around the neighborhood back when we were young, right? We would take my parents' lawnmower, we would go around, and we pretty much, we didn't know it at the time, but we locked down every house on the neighborhood to cut their grass, right? And we were just doing that just because we wanted some shoes, right? We sold Krispy Kreme donuts on the corner, right? We sold papers, we washed windows on the corner. We did a lot of things, right? And then that entrepreneurial spirit turned into selling candy at school, right? So I would go on Sundays to Sam's Club, go get a pack of candy, go to school selling. From there, we went to the clothing business, right? So we started a whole clothing line. So we had we took the material paint, and we would paint on clothes, and we would take them to school, and we would sell them. Then we started a custom shoe line, right? And we would take that same paint, and we would redo Jordans and things like that, and make them all unique because everyone wanted to be unique at the time, right? Then I took that, went to school for computers. I always had a love for computers. I've always said I wanted to be a computer analyst before I didn't know what an analyst. I still don't really know what an analyst is, but that's a whole different story, right? But so I've always been into computers. We were introduced to computers at a very young age. I started doing graphic design in college, right? That graphic design led me to start my first, what I call real company, Techies Unlimited, right? What we did at Techies Unlimited, we would do the club flyers. So those club flyers y'all used to get, they used to be on y'all windows and all that type of stuff, we used to create them. And we did postcards for a while, right? So, and then the websites got hot, right? So when websites got hot, we started creating websites, and that turned into a thing. Then we started fixing computers, right? And then I saw, okay, well, I'm getting paid $150 to come out here to remove a virus from your computer, and all I'm doing in reality is really running a antivirus software, right? So I started looking at the money and I said, okay, well, if I can do this 8 hours a day for 30 days a month, then okay, I can make a little pretty penny, right, on the side. And I was still going to school at the time. So that grew, and that was kind of like my side source of income. At the same time, I was going through school. I was getting experience at different places. I was working for the government, doing little things to build my IT resume itself, right? So I came out of school, went and worked for the government for a while. And this is kind of an interesting story here because I went to work for the government and I never, ever, ever, ever wanted to work for the government, right? I had a summer job working for the Department of Transportation, absolutely hated it, right? The boringest job, I didn't feel like I was fulfilled, like it just wasn't for me. So I always knew I had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I always knew I wanted to get into an entrepreneurial journey. So graduating from college, I ended up going to the Department of Defense, right? Back into the government, but I went with a strategy, right? So I went knowing that I was only going to spend 3 years in the government and I was going to leave, right? I was the only person that knew that, though. So I went to the government. I established my connections that I needed to. I ended up leaving the government, starting my own firm. Now, upon me leaving, in this area, one thing is, especially the older generation, it is a lot of people came to this area for the federal government. So for me, and I tell this story because I don't want others to be discouraged like I was, right? So for me, I would go and talk to people, and I'm talking about even my parents, right? And tell them, hey, this is my plan. They would say, hold on. You got some security in the government. You might want to stay there. Keep your benefits. Keep your life good. You can make a good life. You got to, But I left anyway, right? I left anyway. And when I left, I being young and not really knowing what was going on in the industry, I left and I accepted a what they call a 1099 corp to corp position, right? And what that means is I was an employee, right? But I was working under my own tax ID, right? So what I was doing was trying to build my past performance under the company so I can go out and get contracts later on. So I got the offer, and the offer, it was a letter, it had a start date and everything. So I accepted it, put my 2 weeks in or whatever, was leaving. Got a call, matter of fact, I didn't get a call, and it was about maybe 3 weeks before I was supposed to start, still didn't hear from nobody. About 2 weeks came, then 1 week, and I was like, man, I ain't heard from nobody, I don't know what I was supposed to do on my first day, right? I called them, they said, oh, well, that was a contingent offer, right? We don't really have the contract for you. So I didn't have a job, right? And I had to make a decision at that point. Was I going to stay or was I going to leave? I left. Left with nothing. Like literally not knowing where the next dollar was going to come from. I prayed about it, and I tell everyone that it is amazing what you can do when your back is up against the wall and you don't have no choice but to do what you got to do, right? So I took that. I went out, I found my first contract, which came from networking, came from surrounding myself by certain individuals that could put me in different places, came from surrounding myself by people that were smarter than me, and came from really pounding the pavement. It did not come from researching the internet, right? It did not come, it was not handed to me by no means. It came from hard work and dedication to that craft. And from there, I was able to start a company. Now that company, we're 12 years in. We are over 2,000 employees. We are now considered a large business. We're doing about a little over 500 million a year. So yeah. Thank you. And it's one of those things for me. It allowed not only the financial freedom, but I entered it with a purpose, right? And I've always said to myself that I wanted to start a company, make some money, then I wanted to come out and make an impact, right? So I'm still on that journey, right? I'm still on that journey. That's what brought me to my nonprofit that I started, right? The nonprofit is all about decreasing the knowledge gap in technology between Gen X, Y, Z, and millennials and seniors, right? Because our seniors are getting taken advantage of from a technology standpoint, right? So it's all about decreasing that knowledge gap. But one thing I would say is there's a couple of just keys to business, right? One is you can only serve one God, right? So always keep that in mind. Keep your faith first and do one thing well before you start doing other things. A lot of people like, hey, you need seven sources of income, this, that, and the other, all good, right? Not saying don't do it, but do one thing well. Second thing, I get a lot of people come to me, hey, help me start this company, help me do this, help me do that, blah, 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 blah. And you'll talk to them like, okay, well, what you gonna do? Have you talked to them? Oh, I don't want to talk to nobody because I don't have a business card created. Oh, I don't want to talk to nobody because I don't have a website yet. Look, I get that, right? Totally. Set your infrastructure up, get those things done. But your infrastructure being in place does not bring you business, right? Just because you have a website and you got business cards, don't mean somebody gonna call you. Don't mean nobody will even know that your website exists, right? So I tell everyone, do those things, but don't waste your time on creating what you need to create, trying to do things in the background and set your infrastructure up. Next thing, business owners, because I see a lot of people like enter this for money, right? And I tell people all the time, that cannot be the worst thing that you can enter a business for. You have to understand why you are doing it. And I say that because two things, or three things I should say. One is everybody has a boss, right? Have a company, but guess what? If my customers aren't happy, I don't get paid, right? So everybody has a boss. Two, business owners are not always the highest paid in your company, right? You must invest in your people, and you have to bring people on that are smarter than you. And guess what? Sometimes those people make more money than you, right? And that just is what it is. So don't get caught up in that whole money thing. The third thing, and we talked about this a little bit before about taxes, the wealthy pay taxes, right? So I meet people all the time. It's like, oh, I'm gonna start a company so I can get this right off and get that right off and do this and do that. And I'm not, look, if you have a tax bill, right, because you have been making money, that is a good problem to have. Yeah, so you, and I'm telling you from personal experience, it is not uncommon. And I'm not saying you can't do this more efficiently. You know, I probably need to talk to the brother over there, right? But it's not uncommon to get a $50,000 tax bill, to get a $100,000 tax bill, to get a $70,000 tax bill. But guess what? That comes with wealth building, right? And it comes with generational wealth. I have my son here today, little Eric. And it was very important to me coming up to not only just grow and become successful in business, but also for my two little ones to see the hard work that goes behind the business, right? And that is extremely, extremely important because we're in this era right now of social media, right? And I'm not saying social media is all bad by no means, but it does give a misconception that everything is instant gratification. It's not. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes life, it takes sacrifices. You will risk it all trying to be successful, and there's no way around it. Real quick, so I had the question about capital and getting started with capital. Just so but there's a lot of businesses out there, right? Government contracting is one of those businesses. It does not take a lot of money to start, right? Your starting capital is $250 to get a LLC, a S Corp, a C Corp, whatever it may be, set up, and then you can do what you got to do, sell to the government. The government money in this area is like gold, right? You get you a contract, you take that to the bank, and they will listen to you, right? And they will give you money for payroll, all that other stuff. So again, I just say get started, right? Do what you got to do, pound the pavement, and stay focused.
All right. Be good.
Let's give these brothers another round of applause. I think we cousins. Could I hold a little something? I think we cousins. Could I hold a little something? I'm just kidding. Unless you're going to do it. Well, praise God. Hey, it's time for lunch. Y'all hungry? So, are y'all hungry? No? We can stay? No? All right. So there is lunch available in the fellowship hall. And then we also have a great panel after lunch that will speak to us about entrepreneurship and workforce as well. So our returning citizens. So the time is now 1:06. So let's come back at 1:36. Give you a solid 30 minutes. So there's 1:06. What time we coming back?
1:36.
All right. You all are dismissed for lunch.